Tap and Tap Out. My name is Alex, and as always, in this podcast, we're tapping into discussions around mental wellness, spirituality, and culture, and tapping out the patterns that no longer serve us. Amen. How y'all doing this week? Disclaimer, I don't know why my voice feels weird this week. Bear with me, okay? Please bear with me. It probably sounds fine to everybody else, but to me, I'm like, what's the difference? But yes, how are y'all doing? I'm okay. I am coping comfortably with this heat. I don't know what's up. I mean, obviously it's June, so I guess that's what's up. It's summer, but every summer, like, it's just enough time for me to forget how hot the summer is. So I'm like always surprised by the time a year rolls around and I'm like, it's summer again, and I just can't stop sweating. I just do not like heat that much. Okay, I like feeling warm. I don't love the cold either. So I'm like, what do I do here? Because I don't like either at this point. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good. I've been reading, catching up on my TV, like I said last time, I'm pretty sure. That's been my life a lot lately, doing some adult stuff. But apart from that, I'm doing really good. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Last episode, we talked about therapy. It was a very good episode. Thank you guys for the feedback. I love sharing about things when I can. So if you didn't catch it, please go back and listen. But last episode, we talked about some of my takeaways from my time in therapy the past few years. I just wrapped up, well, I guess it was like May, but in May, I wrapped up my sessions. And I ended up reflecting on my time there and just took away with some major themes for your consumption. So if you want to hear about my business loosely, you can go back and listen to that episode. But yeah, once again, if you're looking for mental health resources, I encourage you to go look into them. If you go to my Instagram, I'm always kind of posting mental health stuff, different resources you can plug into. So if you aren't following me, you can on Instagram at JustAlexToday. Also on Twitter, same handle. And also, the newsletter is a really good resource for you. I've been putting that out now for the past month. I guess it's been 2, so it's been a month. I don't know how time works. But the newsletter will also have some resources sprinkled in there every 2 weeks. So if you're interested in that as well, you can sign up with the link in the description of the podcast or the link in my bio on Instagram or Twitter. So you're welcome. This week, I don't have any questions for the inbox, but if you do have a question, please let me know. Sometimes, because I got questions this week, but some of them I was just able to answer privately. So that's always an option as well. Don't feel like if you ask a question, I have to share it, because I don't. I take consideration, what it is you're asking and then all that stuff. So anyway, this time around, there's no questions that I picked to read aloud. So if you have a question, please send them my way. Any advice questions you have, mental health stuff, whatever you think I would be helpful with, literally just ask me. Or any personal questions you want to know about me. Again, I'm not a licensed professional, but I can tell you what I would do. So keep that in mind. This week, we have a Black Love Journal session. If you're not aware what that is, we had our first one, I think, 2 episodes ago, episode 13. But basically, it's a time for us to journal together. So I talk about a concept or a cultural moment or a personal experience that I want to kind of just talk about that hopefully will link us back to loving ourselves better, because that's the goal here, okay? So I do have a topic. We're going to get to it after the break. So take a quick break. When we get back, we will be tapped into the tap-in. All right, it is time for the tap-in. Like I said, this week we're doing a Black Love Journal session. Bring your pens, bring your paper, bring your minds. Like I said before the break, we use this time to investigate some kind of concept, some kind of cultural moment, some kind of personal experience, just to reflect on how we could maybe be loving ourselves better, because that's an important goal for me. I don't know if it's for you, but it is for me. So this week I have an idea that I've been trying to process. So I guess I'm going to just bring it to the table and we'll do it together. So last time we talked about the Black Love Journal, we did an episode about Nicki Minaj. Basically, it was about her fans, the Barbs, and how, in a way, I really look up to them because they love Nicki Minaj to such an extent that it's like aggressive and like hostile. It's not, I mean, it's kind of hostile sometimes, which is not what I'm really going for, but it's more about that, that urgency and that ambition and just that deep reverence to what she does, and how, in what ways can we be having that love for ourselves. Not that that takes away from what she gets or what celebrities get, but how do we have access to that kind of aggressive love, that relentless love for ourselves. Either way, I've been realizing more and more that, like, as people like myself and like people listening, I'm sure like we all deserve so much in this life. And I know some of the audience that listens, and like I feel as though knowing people's hearts and people's ambitions and people's goals, like we all deserve so much in this life. And sadly, we often come to these obstacles of like not connecting with the things that we deserve. And I think one of the main ways that happens for me is in a wealthy sense, or like in a way of like, can I afford everything that I deserve? And so what I'm saying is that one of the ways in which I get frustrated sometimes is that sometimes I'll really think that like I deserve something nice this week, or I deserve, I don't know, a new phone, right? Because I have a really old phone right now. But can I afford a new phone today? Not exactly, but do I deserve a new phone? Yes. And so how do I separate like what I deserve from what I can actually afford or what I can actually have access to? And I think that for a lot of young people, especially young people of color, um, I think this is an issue. And I'm wondering if this could be a roadblock to completing that loop on maybe some of our healing if we're waiting to be fully realized or fully involved in ourselves until we can afford what we deserve. But we are already deserving, but we don't always have the access to what we deserve as people. And even in relationships, I think it's similar. Like people often measure how valuable they are based on how people value them, which isn't like ludicrous to believe, but a lot of people are in situations where they're in relationships with friends and partners, and they deserve so much more than what their partners are giving them, what their friends are giving them. And so like what people receive, what people get paid for, is not always necessarily tied to what people deserve to get paid for, what people deserve to receive. And so we often find in even like manipulative relationships that people kind of twist that and say, what you get is what you get. And so you only deserve what you get. And the people who get crap think that they're crap, but that's not the case. And so it prompted this question in me of like, is my value tied to my wealth? And I haven't even looked up what wealth means because I looked up everything else for this episode except for the definition. So give me 1 second. So Google defines wealth as an abundance of valuable possessions or money, or a plentiful supply of a particular desirable thing. And so for the sake of this conversation and my own personal writings, I always define wealth as abundance. So if I'm wealthy, then I'm abundant in something, right? And we'll get to what that something could be. But for right now, we're talking about money. And so sadly, I think in many ways, I think money is tied to our value, and wealth being tied to our value, that financial wealth, right? And so, for example, when we think about how many times you Google someone's net worth online, like, oh, Beyonce's net worth, and then comparing it to like Lady Gaga's net worth, like who's to say that their net worth is necessarily tied to their value as a person? But we don't think about that. We think about celebrity culture and the way we can Google someone's net worth and it pops up in front of us. There are two things I'm reading right now. Well, like one thing I'm watching, one thing I'm reading. The thing I'm watching right now is In Treatment. I talked about it a few weeks ago, I'm pretty sure. Maybe last episode. But in Treatment right now, it's basically a show where Dr. Brooke, she's a psychologist, and she has these 3 clients. And every week, it's on HBO, you get a whole week of sessions from these clients. And so week 1, you got 3 episodes plus her own personal episode. And then in week 2, you got everybody's week 2 sessions. And then in week 3, you got the week 3 sessions. And so it's just taking you through, literally, it's 30 minutes each. And you get just this like one-to-one monologue of Dr. Brooke having this client session. And it gets really heated, or they have revelations. And it's really, really good. The acting is top notch. For 2 people in the room to just have that energy and keep the room alive for that long and not feel like it's boring or like getting anywhere, like it is so good. But I digress. There's one client she has named Layla, and Layla is, I think, the youngest client she has right now. Well, the youngest of the 3, who is going to college soon, I'm pretty sure. But the purpose of me talking to her about her is that she comes from a family of wealth to some extent. I think her dad's pretty wealthy, but financially, but she's having this moment. I think it was last episode, so like week 3, maybe it was it week 3? I don't know, child. It was one of the weeks. She was having this this revelation. She's very like politically savvy, like progressive, liberal, and all very conscious about, the world and like the fallings of like the government, like all these different things, But she goes on this tangent or this monologue of, as much as she can be at the best college or wear the best clothing, I think she said Gucci in particular, because she always comes dressed down for these sessions, okay? So whenever she's dressed in, whatever school she's going to, whatever money she can accumulate and success she has, she's still going to be a Black person in America, I think, and she was really getting at the root of that. And Dr. Brooke, the therapist, was really trying to go there with her, and it was really intense and like, it was very emotional. But she's making a very, very good point of like, as much as she can try to garner herself with riches and success and wealth, she's still at the helm of being Black in America and what can come with that, and it got me thinking about how wealth is often a performance, right? I think about like celebrity culture, and so like, in terms of the ways that they show themselves on social media and just the performance of wealth, like even in our own personal lives, like I think sometimes thinking about like the family that like drives the newer car to the family function, and stuff like that, that's all a performance, right? And so often we can separate how much money we have versus how much money we actually show. And there's probably really complex theories about that or whatever. I don't want to go into it or know about those things fully. But I also think as young people, we do have a culture of that on social media. We love to like wear our clothes and tag the brands and, just flexing, we're flexing, right? That is like young person culture, and I think it also is generational too. But I think it's harmful because if what Layla's saying is like, if our performance of wealth is not actually tied to something substantial like our safety, then what's actually the point of performing our wealth at all? At least that's what I'm getting from what she was saying. I don't think that was the point of the actual session, but that's something that I thought about after this week. And then also I was thinking about this book I'm reading, Beloved. I mentioned it last episode because why not? By Toni Morrison. And it's taking me some time to get through it because it is such a dense read, and I haven't watched the movie, so I have no idea what's going to happen next. And it's really weird and kind of grotesque, and like, I don't know, I'm kind of grossed out. But now I'm too far in to not finish. So I'm trucking through it. But there's this scene where, or I guess, is it books? Do books have scenes? I don't know, child. But there's a part in the book where Seth, or Setha, she's like the mom of the story, and she goes with her man friend and her daughter to the carnival. And this is like a Negro carnival. It's like this book is set in slavery times. This is like right after slavery, as in Setha, the man friend, literally left slavery to start a new life. And this is that in between time of trying to figure out what it means to be a free person, So they had this carnival just for Black people to go to, right? And Setha had the idea of wearing, the best dress she had. So she got like the best dress she had, put on this really big hat, and the man friend and the daughter didn't care, so they wore whatever. And when she got there, I think she realized, the book says that she realizes that, it was very like was very hot weather, so she was wearing this like really nice cotton dress, and it wasn't actually suited for having a fun time at the carnival. And how people looking at her, um, she could tell were thinking that she was somebody of like higher class and someone that like, or if anything, just a stuck up person. Which Seth at the time, I don't think Seth is actually a stuck up person. I think she just has ideas of, and she values people's perception of her, which is obviously, understandable for a slave or a freed slave. And so what I'm pulling from that is that, again, we have this performance of wealth. And in Seth's case, I think that it actually fires back on her because she was going to have a good time. I would hope so, or at least bring her daughter to have a good time. And so, one, she's not having a good time. Two, she's hot. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, how advantageous is it for us to actually be invested in the performance of wealth, and particularly financial wealth in this case, right? And so, in thinking about how detrimental it can be for us to be so focused on how we perform our wealth, when in a lot of ways we're tying this wealth to our value as people, what do we do about that? And so, in thinking about this yesterday, I don't think there can really be this like major cultural shift where we completely separate our internal value from the wealth that we have as people. But how can we redistribute the idea of wealth and what it means to be wealthy in hopes that maybe that can like be a tool to love ourselves better? That's the goal that I have today, at least to posit to you. And so, like I said, I do think I define wealth as abundance. So in a financial sense, if I'm wealthy, which I'm not right now, but if I'm wealthy, that means that I don't have to worry about affording stuff. I can freely choose what I want to buy and have it. I don't have to worry about where it's coming from or what it's going to affect or dip into that one to get into that one. Like, I don't have to worry about that, but I have these really weird strikes of gratefulness. And yesterday I was like, you know what I'm really grateful for? Like, having really good friendships, and the friendships that I don't necessarily have to talk to you every single day or every single week, but at a certain point, like if I need you, if push comes to shove, I can always reach out and we can have a good conversation, And so in a way, I think that's a form of wealth, like almost a social wealth. And so I looked this up, and there's like, people break down, I think, even 12 types of wealth. There's not any new concept I'm bringing to the world. It's just something I'm reiterating from the internet. I couldn't find a direct person that started this movement of redistributing the idea of wealth, but it's just a general concept that's out there on Google if you look it up. But there are these four main types of wealth. It's financial wealth, social wealth, time wealth, and physical wealth. We're going to break down each of them really briefly. But for the social wealth, I think I'm taking it differently than the internet really takes it. But they refer to it mostly as status wealth. So this is kind of like tied to our financial wealth. And so if you think about having access to, like, I don't know, the top floor of a club, or like, that kind of culture of like the VIP seating, like that's kind of what I think this certain article I'm reading is tying status wealth to, is that idea of having access to higher echelons of people, right? Whereas my idea of social wealth, in terms of how at this moment feel socially wealthy, is, let's say, God forbid, somebody passed away, right? How many people could you call urgently to express how you're feeling, right? If you lost a job, or if someone broke up with you, right? Like, who could you pick up the phone and say, hey, can we talk today? Hey, can we talk tomorrow? And have a conversation where it's not surface level, but it's actually having deep conversations, right? And I'm not going to define what social wealth can be for you. I feel like if social wealth for you is the amount of people you have as your quote unquote friends, then that's up to you. But for me, social wealth probably has to come from not an abundance of people, but an abundance of who can I go there with? Who can I talk to and feel heard and feel seen in a fullness, not just from a part of me, but from all of me, And I also think, this is just me being kind of a theorist, but I do think that being on social media is also a form of social wealth, because some of us don't have the opportunity to be on the internet, on social media, and so by listening to this podcast, you have in a way you have some social wealth because you have access to people that you maybe don't know closely, but you get to tune in every other week and listen to me talk. You can connect with people, text them any time of the day. You don't have to you know what I mean? And back in the day, people didn't have social media. And so if you saw somebody, you had to go out of your house and walk to them or call them on the phone if you had a phone in the house. And so I think even having social media and having that privilege in itself is a way of is a form of social wealth because you actually are tapped in to people in a way that you wouldn't necessarily be tapped into if you didn't have social media. And so all that to say, I feel as though at this moment I am pretty abundant in my social wealth, and I feel good about that. That makes me feel better about not being financially wealthy at this moment. And so you also have time wealth. I think that kind of means like in a week, in a month, how much time do you have for yourself, right? Or how much of your time do you control? And so I don't think people in prison have a lot of time wealth, because they're on a clock. They're they wake up at a certain time. Their food comes at a certain time. You know what I mean? Whereas like as people walking the earth normally, we have a lot of freedom, especially post Seth and the crew in Beloved. Like we have a lot of freedom on our hands to choose what we want to do with our time. So how do you value that? Do you value your time with yourself? Do you value the time that you have, and the freedom you have to do with that time? Also, physical wealth is a pretty big one. So I am really grateful to be of healthy body, healthy mind, mostly, because it is such a privilege. Like I don't think about, even in the ways I don't treat my body completely correctly, which I talked about last episode. I'm so grateful that my body is in a state where I don't have to give it the best for it to be functional and working fine. And so I call that physical wealth. I think I'm physically wealthy because if I actually tried, I could be so healthy and I'll be on it. But even without all of that extra accoutrements of what it means to be healthy and dieting and exercising, like I'm still pretty healthy, I would say. And so there's one more type of health that came to mind for me. I didn't find it online like that, but having a wealth in knowledge, right? That's something I've always kind of took pride in because knowledge for the most part is not free, but there's some there's ways to access it. It's more accessible than money, more accessible than a lot of things. Like even if I can't talk to someone immediately, I can read something I can read an article. You know what I mean? And so that's why I'm trying to get back into reading. That's why I watch so much YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube commentary discussions. Like I just love I love podcasts for that reason. Like I just love conversation. I love this buildup of knowledge and understanding because I feel a lot more full as a person when I know things. I don't like the unknown. I actually fear the unknown a lot. And so the more I know, the better I feel. And so I just love knowing stuff. And I think there's a wealth in knowledge because it can take you places. So I think if we begin to redistribute our idea of what it means to be wealthy and what it means to have abundance in our lives, we can combat this desire of devaluing ourselves, especially in this, like I said, this celebrity culture, this social media culture of comparison, like who has what, who's showing what. There's a desire to devalue ourselves very quickly, even when we say like, oh, I'm not there yet, or I'll never have that, or we're salty and we send the picture to somebody being like, oh, look at them, that is a desire to devalue what we have, and so instead of, I think, investing so much naturally, I think we do this, investing so much in what it means to be wealthy in a financial sense, in a performative luxury sense, this can be a way, I think, or a step we can take to love ourselves better. I do have some takeaway journal questions if you're interested. If you are a journaler, if you're not, that's fine. But I'm going to try to do these in the next 2 weeks. So please, if you want to, you can do it with me. The first question for the journal entry is, when have you really wanted something that you couldn't afford? This could be from childhood. This could be from recently. Second question, what are you wealthy in right now? So we just talked about different types of wealth. You can have your own ideas of wealth as well. So if you can write down, like, what are you wealthy in right now? Third question, what do you want to become more wealthy in? I don't think it's a crime to want to be more wealthy. I personally, I'm want to be more wealthy. So financially. And so that's something I'm pursuing to do. And there's nothing wrong with desiring an abundance in your life, because I think that's peace, that's comfort, that's safety, that's security. So what do you want to become more wealthy in? And the last question is your value tied to your wealth? In what ways do you or don't you think so? So if you do these journal questions, let me know. I'm gonna do it myself. I might share it in the newsletter. Actually, just had that idea. So yes, if you are interested, you can sign up for the newsletter on the link in my bio or the link in my Instagram or my Twitter. It should be there somewhere. But every 2 weeks, I usually just write about something going on, updates. I do some gaming stuff there too. So if you're interested, sign up for it. It's free. I like to finish off the Black Love Journal sessions with a affirmation. And so this week it came very naturally. Here it is. I have an abundance of gifts and resources that make room for the person I am becoming. Whew. That was a good one. Like I surprised myself. And I need to hear that. So hope this was helpful. Hope this was a way for you to start turn the gears about this topic. And hopefully, as this is the goal, hopefully we are moving towards a place of better self-love. We'll take a quick break, do the small business shout out, and when we get back, we will be back for the tap out. This week for the small business shout out, we've been talking about wealth, and so I want to put you guys on to a content creator. Her name is Maya. You can find her on Instagram at Maya N. Fleming. She posts amazing content centering self-care, financial wellness, entrepreneurship, growing that side hustle, just so many good little tips and tidbits she gives. She's the host of the Gentler Pod as well, which also has a lot of good information and guests she brings on to talk about really important stuff. And I always talk about getting your life together, and she is literally the person to help you do that. And so you can find her on Instagram, like I said. That'll be down below. Also, her website will be down below. With her articles that she writes, she also does coaching calls for people and workshops. So just all around a giver, okay? So if you're interested, you can find her information down in the description. It's time for the tap out. This week, I do have one for myself, which is the best kinds of tap outs because we love self-reflection here on the podcast. This week, I'm tapping out, maybe, of not wanting to play video games because I'm bad at them. It is an issue. I will be honest. I just talked about not being financially wealthy, blah blah blah. But I will spend money on games and not want to play them because I'm not good at them. I didn't realize it until recently because, in my defense, I had some games on sale. Specifically, I'll be fully honest. You know what I don't want to play? So, if you have a Switch, I bought the 3D All Stars um game, the Mario game. And so if you don't know, they released a limited time deal where you can buy this game, and it's 3 Mario games in one from older consoles that they don't sell anymore. Or yeah. And so I bought it cuz I hadn't played N64. I did play Sunshine, but I was too young to understand what I was really doing on my cousin's GameCube, and I did play Galaxy, and I think I beat it, maybe, I don't know, but anyway, so I bought it knowing that I was too busy, quote unquote, to play it at the time, because it was gonna be like it was gonna go off sale like end of March, I think, and so bought the game. Waited to play it until maybe last week. I decided to play it for once. I love watching it. I go on Twitch and I'll watch it. But I tried to play Mario Sunshine last week, and I just could feel that I was having a hard time moving in a way that would be conducive to me winning this game easily. And it got me very frustrated very quickly. I think that's also why I wasn't playing it this whole time, because I knew I was going to be not the greatest at it. And this game came out in 2002. Like, I'll be good. I don't want to say how old I was, but I couldn't hold a controller in 2002. And so I was like, I'm built for this now, you know? Um, I was not. I definitely was not built for it. I mean, and that's the issue. I think I am built for it because I have played games before when I was more active in video game playing, but I just don't like not being good at a game starting out. And so I put it back down, haven't played it since. I also bought Breath of the Wild because I needed a game to play this year that would take me, I either could never beat it like fully, or it would take me so long and keep me busy until the Pokemon games come out end of this year. Anyway, I digress. I bought that game too. I don't do well with video games that are like free roaming and like require me to like beat people and defeat enemies. I just don't know what it is. Like if I'm playing PvP, I used to play League of Legends. I was there. I would keep up, okay? But am I the one that's gonna be like leading the charge? Am I ADC? Am I like the lead person? No. I was support main. So that should tell you I'm usually not the person that's like defeating the bosses. I'm support. I'm healing you, okay? I'm giving you that extra boost speed, that extra strength. I'm not gonna be the one delivering the last blow. So I often struggle, even now in my tender age, I still struggle, I realize, with playing those kinds of games. It gives me anxiety, I think, because I'm bad at them. And that's why I love turn-based games. I love Pokemon for that reason. I don't have to worry about them coming at me. When I press my turn, that's when I go. And when you decide to go is when I decide to let you go. I love turn-based games because there's no anxiety. Okay? But I'm really bad at games where I have to like dodge moves and do stuff. Like, I am not into that. That is too much. I gotta pay attention. Like, I want to be able to get up and pee and come back, and I am just where I left it. Like, I don't want to worry about where I'm moving to, and I hate time stuff too. I hate when things are timed. Don't time me, okay? I don't want to be timed on jumping over the cliff in time. I don't want that, okay? And so I say all that to say, I don't like playing video games that I'm not good at. And it's funny because when I was thinking about why this is, I was reminded of a conversation I had with Hanifa. If you know Hanifa, she is actually I think every other week at this point, but she is a host of the Behind Closed Doors podcast, and we had a discussion. I think it was episode 3 of this podcast. You can go back and listen to it if you haven't already. But we played a game. We're not really strangers, and I think we were talking about something, and she had told me that one thing that she's really not proud of, but something that she loves to see in me is that when I produce stuff or when I'm like in my bag of like being creative, I don't like to reveal stuff or like launch things until it's like put together, like it looks nice, like the idea's almost fully realized, if not fully realized. And I appreciate that because I take a lot of pride in that. Like when I release something or when I let things be known that I'm doing, I usually have a very good idea of what they're gonna look like and the next 2 or 3 weeks of it. And so I think in this way, it's similar because I won't start or unveil ideas that I have if they're not fully realized, if they're not great to me. And so I think that why I struggle to play video games that I'm bad in is because I want to be good at them immediately and not spend the time practicing. And so it also relates because there are certain things that I'd want to do creatively that I don't want to do because I'm not good at it yet. And I don't want to take the time to learn how to be good at it. So instead, I just decide that it's not for me, or, it's not a good medium to work with, And this is unhealthy. This is why it's a habit of the week. because it's not good. It's not good because I want to be someone that's versatile. I want to be someone that is a jack of all trades, but I can't be like that if I'm too up, upset about the process and not about the destination. You know what I mean? And trying to get there. And so, thankfully, the good news, I think, if I can give myself some self-advice, is that if you take the time, this is something theory that I have, if I take the time to do this video game stuff and actually practice being bad and getting better, then that skill might be transferable and applied to other parts of my life. And you see, and so that's why I talk about these things, because even if a tap out is like something facetious like video games or like Subway, there's always some kind of transferable skill there that we can be using to apply to more significant or pressing parts of our life, you know? And so I think life's all connected, y'all. So that's my tap out for this week. I will keep it updated. I probably won't be playing it this week because I'm still healing from how bad I lost against the first. I mean, I was like just feeling like I was jumping and I wasn't going where I wanted to go. I was like, I'm just not good at this game and I just don't want to play it. Like I just having a hard time. I was playing Sunshine and I was having a hard time shooting the water hose at the first plant, the first like big monster, and I was like, this is gonna be bad because this game is too long for me to be bad at it the first couple steps. Like I just was not happy. And so we're working on it. If you want to hear my progress, I'll probably talk about it more in the newsletter this week. But thank you for listening. My social media is at just Alex Today on Instagram or Twitter. Like I mentioned, if you want to sign up with a newsletter, that's where the community is, y'all. You can sign up there. The link in the description or my bios. If you have questions for me, if you have ideas for the episode, if you have a small business you want to promote, you can email howtoshma@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram or Twitter. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, and if you do, you can please leave a review. 5 stars, please. It helps a lot. Write a review. Get us out there. Okay. You can find this podcast also on Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, all the podcast places. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a joy. It's been a pleasure as always. I will talk to y'all later.